There's a need to include more granular tactics in these marketing mix models. And quite consequently, the models themselves, the regression equations, are larger, they're more complex, and that's going to require more computational abilities to solve them. And so there's a big emphasis on computational speed, tractability, because without it, we can't solve the models that are really needed to keep up with the marketing needs.
Welcome to the Life Sciences Leadership Podcast, where we delve deep into the life sciences industry and uncover effective strategies, innovations, and future trends. Your host, Axtria's Jasmeet Soni, engages highly acclaimed leaders in discussions focused on directing commercial success in the life sciences industry. Whether you're transforming your commercial success strategy or just craving dynamic discussion, this is the show for you.
Hello everyone, I'm your host Jasmeet Soni and welcome to the Life Sciences Leadership Podcast brought to you by Axtria. Our goal with this show is to bring to you effective strategies, innovations, and most importantly, people who are driving improved business and patient outcomes within the life sciences industry. Before we start today's conversation, I do want to mention that the views expressed in this episode are opinions of the guest speaker and not the companies that they represent, which in this case is Bayer. Moving on, I'm excited to welcome our guest today, Dr. Moshe Rosenwein. Dr. Rosenwein is the Director of Data Science and Analytics at Bayer Healthcare. Prior to joining Bayer, he held similar positions at AT&T Bell Labs, Medco Health Solutions, Novartis, and ESI. Moshe received his PhD in Decision Sciences from the Wharton School, focusing on heuristic algorithms for solving discrete optimization models. He has published 20 peer-reviewed articles in management science professional journals and co-authored 2 textbooks on project management. He's also presented talks and seminars at numerous professional conferences and universities. While at Medco, he led a cross-functional team to be a semi-finalist in the Edelman competition, recognizing excellence in the practice of management science. Moshe also serves as an adjunct professor at Columbia University, teaching a course in project management at Columbia's School of Engineering. Moshe, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Jasmeet, and let me express my gratitude and appreciation for being invited to be a guest here.
Absolutely, my honor, Moshe. Now, getting started, you have extensive experience in marketing mix modeling and have seen quite a few changes over the years. So let me start with understanding how the marketing mix practice has evolved. And can you tell our audience what is driving this change?
Sure. So what we've seen over the past 5 years, 6 years here at Bayer, just a proliferation of digital marketing tactics, very innovative, new ways to engage customers. And in addition to, of course, getting introduced to some of these tactics, we also want to understand how these tactics integrate with one another and understand the synergies, because I think that really is the goal of the marketing folks that are putting these plans together. There's just increasing pressure on businesses to invest wisely in promotions and choose their allocation in a very optimal fashion. And so, for example, there's Salesforce, there's television, there are digital tactics that they can choose from. And in addition to not only looking at the big picture, so to speak, but there's also been a pressing demand to do optimization at subnational levels as well. And we're finding that our business partners want to get more and more granular with measurements, with ROIs. And so, for example, maybe 5 years ago, it was sufficient to report an overall ROI for television. Today, it's common practice to break it out by TV partner, Hulu, Discovery, CBS, and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, Moshe. And thanks for setting that broader context on the evolution of marketing mix. Now, digging a little bit deeper on the technical side, are you witnessing a change in the modeling approach itself and the techniques used for it? How are they changing?
Absolutely. So, first of all, on the data collection side, we need to collect more data and more granular data. And so, for example, when we talk about peer-to-peer speaker programs, now we need to also look at what were the topics discussed in these speaker programs, for example, safety versus efficacy, because again, there could be a differentiation between the response to these different categories of speaker programs. On the modeling side, it's really essential that we model interdependencies between promotion tactics. For example, detailing and speaker programs influence one another, right? A doctor might go to a speaker program, and therefore, when the rep comes to that doctor's office, maybe a few days later, the doctor might give more time, more attention to the sales representative because the doctor wants to speak about the experience at the speaker program. Likewise, we see that there are many synergies between many of the digital tactics. For example, paid search keywords may be influenced by a previous click on some banner display ad. From the customer side, from the internal customer side, the marketers want to understand the impact of promotions not only on total sales, but also looking at new patient starts and therapy adherence. Obviously, we're seeing many more products for specialty and rare diseases, and the customer bases here are much more tight than they are with products that are there for general medicines. And consequently, we need to build additional models to try to get the insights that our internal customers, meaning the marketing team, is looking for.
Yeah, and those are some great insights, Moshe. You talked about the granular data collection. You talked about interdependency between promotion tactics, and you talked about the emphasis to understand the impact, right? So, and those are all great insights into how the modeling approach and techniques are changing. But in today's world, it's impossible to talk about advanced modeling without mentioning AI/ML. Can you talk about the use of AI/ML in marketing mix modeling and its overarching impact?
Absolutely. And we too would like to adopt and embrace AI/ML methods increasingly as well. In particular, the promotion tactics that are reaching out to patients. We would like to have a better understanding on how patient promotions influence specific doctors to write a particular pharmaceutical product. And we feel that AI/ML, getting more insights into the patients themselves, what drives them to make decisions about medicine and their health, might help us in terms of trying to identify those relationships between patients and doctors even more strongly.
Yeah, thanks for that, Moshe. Now, the natural next question is the role that software and tools play in the modeling and consumption of insights. Do you believe software is changing this field? And if your answer is yes, how?
So we talked a bit before about the fact that we're collecting more data. There's a need to include more granular tactics in these marketing mix models. And quite consequently, the models themselves, the regression equations, are larger, they're more complex, and that's going to require more computational abilities to solve them. And so there's a big emphasis on computational speed, tractability, because without it, we can't solve the models that are really needed to keep up with the marketing needs. In addition, again, talking about the data and the size of the data, we need to have even more efficient ETL tools to bring the data in and to arrange it into a modeling database so that we can, in fact, analyze it. And I will say that there are third-party tools that can support these processes, and we certainly are looking into how to use them and deploy them to be able to respond and execute these projects in a faster, streamlined fashion.
Thanks for your assessment of software and tools. What I find interesting is that you have a very balanced view. You talked about AI/ML in a very balanced way. and also about software and tools, because a lot of the people are either too bullish on these things or on the other extreme when it comes to AI/ML and software and tools. Now, software is definitely making the process faster, more accurate, and more convenient for everyone. But shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about the budgets. Are the marketing mix budgets getting impacted by this evolution? Can you shed some light on changes you see in the budgets and if their focus is shifting?
So I can tell you that last year, 2022, here at Bayer, we conducted about 20 exercises with different brands where our marketing partners would come to us and say, gee, if we received an additional $5 million, say, in promotion budget, how would we utilize it? Which tactics would we want to put that money against? And likewise, we also had a few brands who came to us and said, gee, we may be needing to cut our budget by, say, $1 million. From where would we take that money to really minimize the impact on top line revenue? In addition to conducting these exercises around budgets within a brand, what I really would love to do here at Bayer is to extend these kinds of exercises across the portfolio. We actually have optimization tools that allow us to shift resources in an optimal fashion across brands. And I would like to see us gain traction in using those kinds of cross-portfolio optimization tools. In addition to these exercises, we are also seeing a trend of more allocation of budget going to digital channels. And we're definitely seeing higher investment in digital tactics. And at the same time, we're also seeing greater returns from those digital investments as well. So both sides are going up, so to speak, meaning both the investment as well as the return are increasing as over time.
Yeah, thanks, Moshe. And I like how you're framing this. And I can relate to the conversation that we had earlier, because you're focusing a lot on optimizing and maximizing the ROI of every dollar spent, which is, in a way, what the objective of the whole exercise is. Now, Moshe, we have talked a lot about evolution and the changes we have seen so far. Let's switch gears to the future. What changes do you foresee in the next 5 years?
So one thing that we really haven't talked about that much is really to try to integrate some short-term analytics, like, for example, next best action, which is a very popular model that many pharmaceutical companies deploy to try to understand what should they do next, so to speak. Where should we send our sales representatives next week, next month, and so forth, and to integrate next best action with MMX. So MMX typically is more of a long-term, how are we going to invest and allocate resources, but can we in fact integrate better the short-term next best action recommendations with marketing mix? In addition, we touched a little bit earlier in the conversation that the use of AI/ML tools, I see that as gaining traction, gaining more prominence, in particular on the patient side, where I think that the data, because of HIPAA, of course, is a little bit less clear than it is on the professional side. And then in addition, as we talked about the business applications, I think that organizations will begin to use MMX as a cross-portfolio tool rather than just looking at the individual brands in silos, if you will.
Yeah, and that is a fantastic summary of what we can expect in the future, Moshe. In my last question, I would love to understand how the roles of an analyst and business user are changing as they relate to marketing mix.
Sure. So for me, it's always about the business story, right? It's not just showing the numbers, but trying to bring out the key insights, the key learnings from the model results. And so, for example, we're constantly looking at our results in the framework of what happened in the past so that we can ask the question, well, why did the ROI go up? Why did it go down for this particular tactic? Was there a change in the message? Is there a change in the market or competitive environment? And so trying to interpret the results and trying to see the business picture, these are the attributes that we really seek in bringing marketing mix to the organization.
Right. And Moshe, thank you so much for all those insights. I know we talked about what we have seen, the evolution, what's driving that evolution, the AI/ML and software, and what to expect in the future. Those are all some wonderful insights. And I loved having the conversation with you. And there's a lot to learn for our audience. We all know the importance of marketing mix for the commercial organization, but understanding its evolution is really critical to be successful in the market. The knowledge and expertise you shared will be really helpful to our audience as they apply these learnings to their business and prepare for the future. Thank you so much again for coming to the show and sharing your knowledge and deep experience in this space.
And thank you again for having me as a guest today.
Absolutely. And to the audience, thank you so much for joining us today, and tune in soon for the next episode.
Thanks for joining us on the Life Sciences Leadership Podcast. If you loved this episode, please share with friends and subscribe on your favorite streaming platform. For more information, visit lifesciencespodcast.com. Until next time.